Hey there, gardener. I'm new to growing things in a vertical garden tower like this GreenStalk garden tower, and I must say I am so impressed by how well my peppers are doing. So I wanted to show you guys how I plant, support, and fertilize pepper plants. If you're new here, hello and welcome. My name is Jara and I teach people how to garden and grow food. So you've come to the right place if you want to improve your gardening skills. I have a small garden and these GreenStalk garden towers have really maximized how much food I can grow. This is the first time I'm growing peppers in one of these, and I must admit I was kind of skeptical because pepper plants get pretty big, but they are all doing amazingly well, from the smaller pepper cultivars like the Biquinho pepper all the way to the large bell peppers like Yellow Monster. I do think the smaller pepper varieties grow better in here than the large bell peppers. They tend to be compact plants with smaller root systems that would grow well in a pocket like this. However, this is not to say you won't get some production out of the larger pepper varieties, just not as much as if planted in the ground or in a large container where its root system has more space. So when it comes to cultivar selection, I say grow whatever peppers you want in a tower like this. They all are doing great. I do have some other peppers growing in the ground or in bigger containers just around my garden, but the ones growing in this tower are actually doing the best. The plants are more lush, they're green, they're producing much more earlier. I want to say that, at least for me, I think they're doing better in this tower because the soil stays a little more on the dry side. Peppers don't do too well in wet soils. They easily get root rot or it attracts pests like whiteflies. The pockets of these towers dry out much faster and have better drainage when compared to the plants growing in ground, at least for me here in Florida. This might not be an issue for you depending on where you live, but here in Florida, our soil can be pretty wet and we are all close to the water table. Also, these peppers are growing in Pro Mix brand potting mix as recommended by GreenStalk. It's good stuff, really nice and fluffy. I think the pepper plants have responded well to growing in the Pro Mix brand soil. All right, so let me show you guys how I planted the pepper plants in a garden tower like this. It's pretty much the same process as if you were planting in ground or in a container. But there are some products and things that I like to use that I just feel really help maximize the production out of my pepper plants. The first step, you gotta assemble your garden tower and fill it up with soil. Again, GreenStalk recommends that you use Pro Mix brand specifically. I already use Pro Mix brand stuff all over because of my nursery. I really like to use their soils when I'm starting plants. So I had a big bag ready and I filled up the entire garden tower. It also helps if you pre-moisten everything because potting soils and seed starting mix tends to be a little hydrophobic at first. So it's really helpful if you try and pre-moisten all the soil as much as possible before you start planting things in it. Right here, I have some fertilizers and amendments that I really like to use when growing peppers. This is all organic stuff. So I just take like a couple handfuls of Espoma brand tomato tone. I really like using that when growing the peppers. I also added some azomite, which is rock dust. It gives minerals, and I swear that that really helps my pepper plants produce bigger sized peppers. And I put some crab meal in here because I'm in Florida. Nematodes is a big issue. Crab meal really helps attract beneficial nematodes that eat the bad ones. So I end up putting crab meal in the planting hole for everything that I plant here in my garden. And yes, you can get nematodes even in containers, even in a GreenStalk garden tower like this one. Those are basically microscopic little worms that transfer just like pathogens would on your hands, on your garden tools, between plants, and they will get into the soils even if it's in a GreenStalk garden tower. I don't have too bad of a nematode problem at all, but I'd rather be on the safe side. So I just pre-mix all of that stuff in here. And then to plant the pepper, I know it's hard to see this because this is so crowded already, but there is an empty spot right here. And when you're growing peppers in a garden tower like this, GreenStalk sells two sizes. They sell the original size with pockets that are 10 inches deep. So this entire unit is the original size tiers. And then they have another size that's called the leaf, and their pockets are 7 inches deep. So that's for like smaller things. I consider pepper plants a bigger size crop. They get pretty big. So I highly recommend that you plant one pepper plant per pocket of the original size GreenStalk garden tower. So the deeper pockets. I feel if you planted this in the leaf, I mean, it might work for some of the really smaller types of peppers, like the Biquinho, or maybe even like the little Thai chilies or bird's eye chilies, because those plants tend to stay a little small. But this is a Biquinho right here and it's getting pretty big, but they might do okay. They have smaller root systems in general. They might do okay in a leaf, but if you could put them in the original deeper size pockets, do that. It'll be much better. So let me show you how to plant this. You just dig your hole just as you normally would in the garden ground or in a container. Peppers are planted at the same level as the soil. It's not like tomatoes where you bury half the stem. Then you're gonna take your amendments, sprinkle some in there. Again, this stuff is organic, so I just eyeball it. I've never burned my plants using organic fertilizers. It's really hard to do that. It's possible if you use just like way, way, way too much, but most likely not. It definitely is a concern if you're using synthetic stuff. So if you're using a synthetic fertilizer, make sure that you follow the package directions. And once you put your fertilizer in there, mix it a little bit with the surrounding soil of the planting hole so that it doesn't come in direct contact with the roots. That's not always the best. Okay, and then the last thing I'm gonna add is some of this Dino mycorrhizal inoculant. This is something I started experimenting with really this year at the suggestion of one of my viewers. They said they really thought it helped their plants just get more lush and produce more. So I've been experimenting with this on all of my peppers in this entire tower, all my tomatoes, all of them that I have growing like in ground around my garden. And so far, I think I agree. These pepper plants look amazing. They're all green and lush and healthy. Apparently this stuff helps promote the mycorrhizal network between the roots of the plants and the soil to help increase plant vigor, and it helps their immune systems be just a lot better in general, which will also help ward off pests and diseases. So far, I think it's doing pretty good, but we'll see at the end of my summer season and the results of when I really start harvesting a lot of things. This stuff is kind of granular and it has to come in contact with the roots. So we're gonna sprinkle some in here, but don't mix it up with the soil because you want this stuff to actually come in contact with the roots. Okay, so time to plant this pepper. This is actually a sweet datil pepper. It's a native pepper to the state of Florida, so really cool. We don't really have that much native edible crops. It does come in a sweet and a hot version. So you maybe have heard of like the hot spicy datil pepper. There's also a sweet version as well. So we just pop out our little plant and kind of try to push it in there. Sometimes it can be a little difficult because there's not that much space. All right, looking good. And that's it. It's very easy to plant peppers in a GreenStalk garden tower like this. The original GreenStalk garden tower can fit 30 plants, so I can grow 30 pepper plants in about a 2 or 3 square foot space. That's absolutely crazy. And it's awesome because it's alleviated more space throughout my garden that I can dedicate to growing other crops. Now let's discuss fertilizing pepper plants. It is so easy to fertilize all 30 plants in one of these towers. You just mix your water soluble or liquid fertilizer of choice per the directions and pour it into the top water reservoir. It will drip down into all of the pockets, fertilizing your plants in minutes. I start fertilizing once I see new growth on the seedlings that I just planted. I like to use AgroThrive, which is an all-purpose organic liquid fertilizer. I repeat fertilizing with this about every 3 weeks. Once my pepper plants start to flower, I alternate with a fertilizer higher in potassium and phosphorus because this supports flower and fruit production. Too much nitrogen will promote lots of leafy green growth instead of flowers and fruit. I'm using this water-soluble bloom booster fertilizer, and so far I'm really impressed by the results. I will alternate fertilize with the bloom booster once the flowers start forming. 3 weeks later, I fertilize with AgroThrive. Then 3 weeks after that, some more of the bloom booster. I will link below in the description to all of these fertilizers and products so that you can find them. And of course, watering this thing is super easy. You just fill up the water reservoir at the top. I just got the official GreenStalk garden tower irrigation kits, and I'll be installing one on all of my towers just to make watering a lot easier. Okay, so now our pepper plants are growing. Most of them will require some support. The smaller fruiting pepper plants are fine, but the larger bell peppers or like Marconi will probably require some support because their branches will break under the weight of the fruit. Plus, these larger fruiting pepper plants can get over like 3 feet tall and will just flop over. The smaller fruiting types tend to be more bushy and sprawl out horizontally. And there are so many ways that you can stake them up. GreenStalk does sell vertical plant supports, but I don't have enough of those yet. You could just use some sticks. I got a bundle of 6-foot long bamboo stakes at Home Depot. It was about $6 for the bundle, and I cut them in half. Or one time I bought like a garden hoop kit, and it came with all these pieces that you assemble together. We're in summertime by this point, so after I took apart the hoops, I noticed like how good these would be as little stakes. So I'll use this with the smaller size pepper plants. And all you have to do is tie the pepper plant onto, your stake, poles, sticks, whatever you're using. So I'm gonna get to it and start tying some of these. All right, so let's stake one up. This is the yellow monster. It's already forming a pretty big bell pepper right here. And I grow this one every single year. And trust me, this one is a really big size bell pepper. It will break the branches of this plant. So I'm gonna use one of the bigger bamboo sticks because I know this plant is just gonna get really tall. I like to stick it in the middle of the pocket, right underneath the plant, kind of at an angle pointing outward, so the plant will kind of grow this way. And then I just get some string and tie around the plants. Some of these sprouted 2 seeds. When I sowed the seeds in the solo cups, both of the seeds sprouted, and I leave them. I don't thin out the seedlings if 2 of them sprouted. So I planted the whole thing in here. That means there's 2 plants in this pocket. This is a pepper pepper called Popper Pueblo Chile. There's a normal, like larger standard size Pueblo Chile, but this is Popper. It's just a smaller sized one. So I left it. I'm okay with that. If it was the larger fruiting type of pepper, like this yellow monster or something like that, then I would thin it down to just one plant or gently break apart the seedlings so that I have two and I'll plant each one individually. But this one, since it's smaller, I left both of them and I'm using the same bamboo stake to tie both of them onto it. And this is a Biquinho pepper plant. This is the yellow cultivar. These peppers are super small. This is about as big as they get, maybe a tiny bit bigger. So I'm not concerned about the weight of the fruit, like breaking the plants. And it's got a very bushy kind of growth. So I'm actually not gonna stake this one at all. I think it's gonna be fine. These are some Jimmy Nardellos. I am a little worried that this will eventually break the stems. These stems are not super thick. They're kind of on the thin side, so I will be staking this one up. And this pepper, I know I'm gonna butcher this name. It's called Aconcagua, I think. This is known for getting to be a really big fruiting pepper, so I will definitely be staking this one as well. Here's another stem from it, and it's bending over because of the weight of this fruit. I really do not want pepper plant stems, leaves, anything dragging on the ground, because then it starts to pick up pests, diseases, just all sorts of things. So I really need to stake this one back up. This is a jumbo chocolate pepper. This is one of my favorites. It's like a brown colored pepper when it's fully ripe. I don't know, the flavor, I'm just in love with it. So again, I'm gonna have to stake this one. Here's a bunch of Shishito peppers. Boy, are they thriving. These plants are loaded. I've never seen my plants this loaded before when I was growing them in the ground. They're really growing well in this GreenStalk garden tower. The fruit is pretty small compared to some other peppers, but look, when I let go, it's so loaded that the weight of it kind of pushes the branches down, and again, I don't want it to go downwards, so I'm gonna stake this one up. All in all, I am very impressed by how well all of my plants, not just the peppers, are doing growing in a GreenStalk garden tower like this. I finally got one about 6 months ago at your recommendations, and now I have 6 of them. Previously, I purchased cheaper, smaller vertical garden towers, and they were horrible. All of my plants died, primarily due to uneven watering. So I was reluctant to try again, especially with a garden tower that costs a little bit more. But they had a sale, I tried it, and what a huge difference. The quality of this product is amazing. It has even watering, the plastic is thick, so it will survive the harsh elements here in Florida. I bought these with my own money. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. This is a great solution that actually works to help you maximize how much food you can grow. With that said, GreenStalk was kind enough to give my viewers $10 off their orders. To get the discount, follow the link in the description below. Plus, they have sales all the time. I got some of these towers as part of a buy one get one free promotion, so watch their website. So now I'm gonna get to the fun part, why we grow our own food, and that is to harvest everything. My pepper plants are really starting to flower a lot and produce some fruit. Most of them are not ready right now, but I definitely have a ton of Shishito peppers here that I wanna harvest. All right, so I got some help to harvest these Shishito peppers. That's a nice size Shishito. It started turning red, so I might as well harvest it now. Ooh, there's some big ones in there. So Shishito peppers are very prolific. They taste really good when they're grilled, like blistered on the grill. And about 1 out of every 10 Shishito pepper is spicy, so it's a surprise. One last big one right here, cut that one. All right, so we got 2 really big Shishitos here, and we got a couple more. Today's harvest was 9 Shishito peppers, and my plants are still loaded. I'm gonna have so many more peppers in the next upcoming weeks. All right, it's been a few weeks, and I have a lot to harvest, starting with these Aji Cachucha peppers. We have some Jimmy Nardellos, all ripened up now. Some yellow Biquinho, also called Sweety Drops. Some larger sized Cubanelle peppers. My favorite jumbo chocolate pepper. And finally, some Aconcaguas and yellow monster sweet peppers. As you can see, growing any kind of pepper from the small to the large fruiting varieties is very easy in one of these types of garden towers. And I will list all of the varieties that I'm growing in this tower in the description below. Also, you can find seeds on my website if you want to grow the same ones. And if you have any favorite pepper varieties, let me know in the comments so I can try growing that one next time. Thank you for watching and happy gardening.